A tired nurse got into the wrong car, and a millionaire humiliated her without knowing who she really was. After a brutal 14-hour hospital shift, trauma nurse Lena Brooks is humiliated by arrogant millionaire Daniel Cross over a bloodstain on her scrubs. The next day, fate turns the tables when Daniel's mother arrives dying in Lena's ER. Now compassion, guilt, and redemption collide in one unforgettable moment. Before we dive in, let us know in the comments, what time is it and where are you watching from? Let's start. Push another round of epi, Dr. Carter shouted, his voice cracking over the chaotic mechanical screaming of the hospital monitors. The line is failing, Lena yelled back. Her palms were stacked, slamming down against the 7-year-old's fragile chest with a brutal, necessary force. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We are losing his pulse, Lena. Keep going. I am not stopping, she gasped, her shoulders burning, her breath coming in ragged, tearing heaves. I am right here, Noah. Stay with me. It was exactly 5:47 a.m. The boy's name was Noah. And for 4 minutes and 22 agonized seconds, the absolute only thing keeping his soul tethered to this side of the earth was the relentless driving rhythm of Lena Brooks's hands refusing to accept defeat. Line's blowing! A tech screamed from the opposite side of the bed. Before anyone in the room could react, the IV junction violently ruptured. A dark, hot spray of blood erupted into the air, arching directly across Lena's chest, soaking instantly and deeply into the light green fabric of her scrubs. Keep compressing, the doctor ordered, panic lacing his tone. Lena didn't flinch. She didn't blink. She didn't look down at the blood. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Come on, little man, she whispered fiercely, sweat stinging her eyes and blurring her vision. Don't you quit. Do not quit on me today. Suddenly, the monitor's frantic, erratic shrieking broke into a stuttered, jagged beep. Then, miraculously, it settled into a steady, rhythmic pulse. We have a pulse, Dr. Carter exhaled heavily, dropping his head backward in sheer relief. Good work, everyone. Good work, Lena. We have him back. Lena stepped away from the bed, her knees weak, her arms trembling violently from adrenaline. She finally looked down at her chest. The massive, dark brown stain was already setting into the fabric, covering her name badge. I'll change into fresh scrubs after the next patient, she thought, wiping her forehead with the back of her wrist. But in the Mercy General Trauma Unit, there was never an after. There was only ever the next patient, and the emergency after that. 14 grueling hours later, 29-year-old Lena Brooks walked out through the automatic doors of the hospital into the blinding glare of a Tuesday afternoon. Done. Shift finally over. Her heavy stethoscope still hung around her neck because she was too numb to remember to take it off. Her ID badge, Lena Brooks, RN, Trauma Unit, tapped rhythmically against the dried, stiffened bloodstain on her chest. Her thick-soled nursing shoes felt like lead. She pulled out her phone, squinting at the bright screen with exhausted eyes. She tapped the rideshare app. Black sedan KWH 449, 2 minutes away. She leaned her heavy shoulders against the warm brick wall of the hospital and closed her eyes, just for a brief moment, just to remember what stillness felt like after a day of chasing death away. Tires whispered softly against the curb. A sleek black sedan idled. Lena didn't check the license plate. She knew she was supposed to. Her mother's voice echoed faintly in her mind. Check the plate, baby, every single time, but her brain was completely fried. It was a black sedan. It was here. She pulled the heavy rear door handle, sank into leather so incredibly soft it felt like a hug, and let the darkness immediately take her. She was sound asleep before her heavy tote bag even hit the floorboards. "Excuse me." The voice was sharp, impatient, cold. I said, "Excuse me, wake up immediately." Lena's eyes snapped open in sheer panic. The world spun out of focus. She wasn't in her cheap rideshare. Sitting next to her, separated by the luxury console, was a man in a dark, immaculately tailored suit. Daniel Cross, 38 years old, self-made millionaire, founder of Cross Logistics, and a man entirely devoid of patience for mistakes. Where am I?" she mumbled, frantically clutching her bag to her chest. "You are currently trespassing in my private vehicle," Daniel said, his voice dropping into a dangerously quiet, commanding register. "This is not a public taxi service." "Oh, my God, I am so sorry," Lena stammered, her face burning hot as she scrambled frantically for the door handle. "I ordered a black sedan on the app. I was just so exhausted I thought—" "You thought?" Daniel interrupted, his tone flat, cutting, and utterly dismissive. He didn't bother looking at her face. His cold eyes dragged slowly over her deeply wrinkled scrubs, her scuffed, worn-out shoes, and finally locked onto the massive, crusty brown stain covering her chest. "I'll get right out. Please forgive me," Lena pleaded, her hand shaking on the door latch. From the front seat, the hired driver caught Daniel's eye in the rearview mirror and let out a low, mocking chuckle. It was just enough audience to fuel Daniel's irritation into outright cruelty. "Try actually reading a license plate next time," Daniel said, the rich contempt bleeding openly into his words. "And maybe attempt to clean yourself up before you go out into public. You look like you just crawled straight out of a dumpster." Lena froze, one foot already on the hot pavement. She looked back over her shoulder at him. She desperately wanted to scream at him. She wanted to tell him about the 7-year-old boy's blood on her shirt. Instead, she pulled herself out and closed the heavy door without saying a single word. She ordered another car. She went home, and standing completely still under the scalding water of her shower, watching the dried blood finally wash down the drain, she let herself cry. The next morning, 6:40 a.m., fresh green scrubs, hair tied back on the trauma floor, because Noah deserved hands that wouldn't quit. At exactly 11 a.m., the emergency double doors crashed violently open. 64-year-old female, the lead paramedic shouted, sprinting furiously alongside the rolling gurney. Ischemic stroke, sudden onset 40 minutes ago at a downtown restaurant. BP is sky high and climbing. "Get her into Bay 4 right now," Lena yelled, snapping on her blue gloves and running to meet them. The elderly woman on the bed was completely terrified. What happened?" The woman slurred helplessly, tears spilling hot and fast down her pale cheeks. Lena leaned in immediately, gripping the woman's trembling left hand with fierce reassurance. "Mrs., look right at me," Lena commanded softly, her voice dropping into a low, steady, unbreakable anchor. "You are at Mercy General. You are safe now. You are having a severe medical emergency, but we have you. Do you understand me? I am right here with you." "Scared," Margaret forced out, sobbing. "I know you are," Lena said, never breaking eye contact, while her free hand deftly prepped a complex IV line. "But you are not alone in this room. I've got you. We are going to take excellent care of you." At 11:48 a.m., Daniel Cross burst frantically through the ER sliding doors. His expensive tie was skewed violently to the side. His face was entirely bloodless and gray. All his corporate armor was completely gone, stripped away instantly by a single terrifying phone call from his assistant. "My mother!" he shouted at the triage desk, his hands trembling violently. "Margaret Cross! They just brought her here. They said she had a stroke." "Sir, you need to calm down and wait in the corridor," the clerk instructed firmly. "I am not waiting in a damn corridor," Daniel yelled, slamming his open hand hard against the counter. "Where is she?" "Mr. Cross." Daniel spun around rapidly. Standing 10 feet away, holding a medical tablet, was Lena. Fresh green scrub, stethoscope around her neck, her silver ID badge gleaming brightly under the harsh hospital lights. The sheer recognition hit Daniel like a physical, suffocating blow. He staggered back half a step, the air rushing completely out of his lungs. He stared at her face, bracing himself, waiting for the disgust, waiting for the cold, justified revenge. Lena's face showed absolutely nothing. No anger, no smug triumph. Only total, unflinching, disciplined professionalism. "I am the lead trauma nurse on your mother's case," Lena stated clearly, stepping forward. Daniel opened his mouth to speak, but his throat was completely paralyzed. No sound came out. "She arrived presenting with an acute ischemic stroke," Lena continued, her voice perfectly even and controlled. "We administered treatment immediately upon arrival. With strokes, time is brain, and we moved incredibly fast. The neurology team is with her in imaging right now." "Is she?" Daniel choked on the terrible words, tears welling in his eyes. "Is she?" "Your mother is alive, Mr. Cross," Lena said gently, looking him directly and securely in the eyes. "She fought very hard. She is currently stable." Daniel's knees buckled. He collapsed heavily into a nearby plastic waiting chair, burying his face deep in his shaking hands. A ragged, tearing sob ripped out of his throat, echoing in the hallway. "She's okay," he whispered to the floor tiles. "She's okay." "She is okay," Lena repeated, and for the very first time, her professional voice softened just a fraction. "Give me 5 minutes to chart her latest vitals, and I will personally take you to her." She turned on her heel to walk away. "Wait." Lena stopped. She didn't turn around. Daniel forced himself to stand up, his voice cracking. "Yesterday, what I said it to humiliate you. I saw your badge and I chose to be cruel." He looked at her scrubs. The stain. What was it? "A 7-year-old boy," Lena said quietly, her voice echoing in the space. "He went into sudden cardiac arrest right at the end of my 14-hour shift. The IV line violently burst while I was actively doing chest compressions to keep him alive." Daniel physically recoiled as if he had been struck, the remaining color draining from his face all over again. "Did he?" Daniel asked, barely able to breathe. "His name is Noah," Lena said firmly, "and yes, he made it." Daniel closed his eyes tightly. A single hot tear escaped, tracking slowly down his cheek. He nodded slowly, entirely overwhelmed by the sheer, crushing, suffocating weight of his own blinding arrogance. 3 days later, Daniel met Lena at the nurse's station with a coffee. "I called the hospital board yesterday," Daniel said. "I asked them why this trauma unit is understaffed. After hearing their administrative nonsense, I made a massive donation to the Trauma Nursing Fund. Enough capital to immediately hire 2 additional nurses for this specific floor, fully funded for the next 2 years. Lena's breath caught sharply in her throat. "You didn't have to do that." No human being should have to work a 14-hour shift fighting desperately for people's lives, only to get humiliated on a public sidewalk because they were simply too exhausted to see straight, Daniel said warmly, holding her intense gaze. This isn't a financial trade, Lena. It isn't a guilt-driven apology gift. It's just what is fundamentally right. From someone who had the power and money to do it a very long time ago and never bothered to ask the right question. Lena looked at him. The coldness was gone. She took the cup. Thank you. You take care of yourself, Daniel. She offered him a small, deeply genuine smile. Then she turned around, her silver badge catching the bright fluorescent light, her stethoscope swaying rhythmically against her fresh scrubs, and walked through the swinging double doors to do exactly what she did best. She showed up.